Hello? Alrighty. I think we're about ready to go. Here we are. Welcome. Let me turn the music down a bit. I got Pretzel installed. So now we got background music. How do I guess just turn down. Turn it down there and then there we go. Alrighty. Well, welcome to an interesting new experiment I want to try. Before I got into, for some reason, Streamlabs does not want to connect to chat. Try this. Oh well. But before I began streaming, I actually have been trying to be a movie reviewer for, God, years now. I initially tried to be a Channel Awesome style video reviewer, and that failed miserably. I cut back and then switched over to text and did blog posts. Took about a year or so off around 2014 and 15. Like I started way back in 2012 wanting to review movies, and in fact, I actually went earlier back and reviewed movies for my college paper in 2009 through 2011, and so I've been, I just really enjoy talking about and reviewing movies, and so I decided uh, after graduating to try and become a video producer. That didn't work out, so I switched it over to um, no, no joy. How do you mean? Uh, but yeah, I've been trying in one form or another for about how long? 2016 to yeah, for 4 years straight. Oh, that's of course not. Why would it? Pretzel says you're supposed to just be able to hit play and it'll show up. Of course, it's not that simple. Connected to Twitch. Not worried about Discord. Uh, let's see. Any luck there? Love troubleshooting live on stream. Don't just fantastic stuff. And of course, Streamlabs still can't connect to chat. Error loading data. Oh, lovely. Just just peachy. You just gotta love it, really. Ah well. Let's see. What about this? How about that? Come on. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe I have to add a whole new. Here, what if I do that and then There. How's that? Did it do it? Did I eat the Cheerios? Oh well. Uh, let's not get delayed any further. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is that I've been reviewing movies for almost 10 years now in one form or another. And after the podcast kind of fizzled out and became a problem to maintain, I switched over to back to video, tried to go back to YouTube, and yeah, every time I tried, it was just always one issue or another, and mainly that I was receiving very little feedback. Like I wasn't getting a whole lot of um what you call it just like people, there was no audience building really. There was no way to get people to, let's see. Uh Sorry, I'm trying now. I'm going to try, what if I try this in browser? Will that do it? I wonder if that, let's see if that did anything. Um, but yeah, I was always having trouble building an audience, and people were not very responsive to it. So, when I discovered VTubers, I saw an opportunity. There weren't a whole lot of VTubers who reviewed movies. VTubers were mainly video gamers. Then you have the artists. Then you have people that are just chatting, just talking about their lives. And there wasn't a whole lot of film review going on as part of this whole new outlet. I mean, I guess you could count Saberspark as a kind of movie reviewer VTuber, since he uses that animated version, that cartoon version of himself in his videos for the most part. But on Twitch, there really isn't anything quite like it. So I figured, why not make it a weekly, do what I was doing before, but do it in this new outlet and see if I can branch that out. So, welcome to a brand new segment called Deer and Projector Lights. Brand new segment, whole new deal, and we're gonna do, yeah, I have the oh wait, I forgot to add the chat box here. No chat box, no alert box. And then put you here. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the chat box. Whoa! Stop clicking the things. Switch over to. For some reason the trackpad was acting all wonky. Then alert box. There we are. Put that up here. Alrighty. Now we're all set. So yeah, welcome to Deer and Projector Lights, which is the weekly segment where I will be reviewing and discussing movies, mostly what I saw within the past week, and then maybe some other fun stuff. Like, I think today I'm finally going to get out the tier list that I've been working on for the last month, but have had trouble with in one form or another. So, let's begin with the first movie that I have. I'm going to be covering movies that I haven't already covered over on YouTube. If you're interested in the other stuff I've covered, I'll go over to Popcorn Junkie, and those videos are still there. I'm leaving them up there for posterity. But as for... Whoa. Automod picked up... Come on. Over to this side. Automat did not like the name of this song. That's the guy's. Well, namely, but they didn't like the fact that this guy had. Oh, that's an unfortunate name. Oh boy. Anyway, the uh, the first movie that we're going to talk about is A Quiet Place Part Two. I didn't manage to get a video out on this one, so I'm gonna give. So it's been about a month. I'm not sure how many people have seen it. I'm assuming a lot because that's the main thing is that this movie was almost sold out when I went to see it with my nephew. It was front row seat. Granted, this was during the old COVID restrictions at Cinemark, so it was spaced out more. But even so, like pretty much all the not bleacher, but elevated seating, arena style seating, and then most of the front, except for like the first row of seats, were taken for the first 2 days of this movie's release back in May. It was something else. The fact, like, when we first went to see it, the theater was almost sold out for A Quiet Place Part 2, and so instead, my nephew and I went to see Cruella, which I'll also be talking about. And I find that fascinating that it for that movie that it just completely sold out as fast as it did. And I figured it's just like kind of how like Godzilla vs. Kong sold out really quickly. People are itching. And, for all the talk of like, oh no, will movie theaters survive? No, people were itching to go back to the movies. It's just, you gotta give them something to go see. And, giant monkey fight giant lizard is something. And then the sequel to one of the best horror movies of the last decade is another. So Quiet Place Part 2 comes out, and it's just about on par with the original. I had some more issues with it than the original, but I would say basically it's on the same level as the original. The story this time around was that we opened up with the invasion, for lack of a better word, the day one of the encounter, and we get to see what these characters in the before times, before the monsters were around and they had to stay quiet and just living their daily life in this small town. And then the chaos that ensued from these monsters landing on Earth. And then we cut back to immediately after the events of the first movie. And with their farm in shambles, the family have to move on and find a new place. And in the process, they run into a friend of theirs from before the apocalypse, played by Cillian Murphy. And Cillian Murphy has had a much worse time of it, completely losing everybody that he loved from before and kind of becoming a recluse. And meanwhile, Millicent Simmons, Reagan, has been wanting to utilize this new technique that they figured out at the end of the last movie, where the feedback from her hearing aid to microphones causes the monsters to freak the hell out because it's so loud and high pitched. And she thinks if she can get that to a signal and broadcast it, then, apocalypse over, human wins. And unfortunately, the problem is nobody really believes in her. And it's like, and especially since her dad was the only one who really was into the idea. The mom was just wanting everybody to stay alive, and Cillian Murphy just giving up. And so she decides to hoof it on her own. And Emily Blunt tells Cillian Murphy, look, just bring her back alive. I don't want to lose someone else to them. And so eventually Cillian Murphy and Reagan go off to find this station that's playing Beyond the Sea on a loop. And she figures, look, if somebody's playing this song, it's a signal. She traces the signal back to the station. It's off the coast of the Carolinas on an island. And she figures, look, clearly this is a sign for us that we need to go find these people, and then we can, use this technique, and then it becomes basically kind of a Last of Us style survival, trying to get to this one place. That's the whole thing about the series, is that it's probably coincidentally just the aesthetics of everything very in line with The Last of Us, and it gives you an idea of how a Last of Us series, which they are working on, I know, could look. It's giving that kind of aesthetic to it, and I think it's really gorgeous the way they handle it. And so the main plot involving Cillian Murphy and Millicent Simmons is solid, excellent. The problem is, I feel like the son and Emily Blunt being left behind kind of leaves them without a whole lot to do, and they're kind of just there twiddling their thumbs for something to happen, unfortunately. And then by the end of it, the son does something really, really stupid in order for the climax to happen, and I feel like there wasn't as much of that in the original, although it's been a few years since I watched it, so there may be that. I think that's just a problem with a lot of horror and movies in general. Is just every so often you write yourself into a corner. It's like, okay, I want this to happen, but how do I get that to happen? And then you just decide, they do this thing that's really stupid and out of character, but it gets the plot to happen. So that was kind of my main issue with the bits of the movie. That's kind of why I didn't like it as much as the original. But Cillian Murphy is excellent. Millicent Simmons, this is a breakout performance for her. This is her film to shine, and she does such an excellent job in this movie. And I really hope to see her in more things. I hope she doesn't get relegated to just, oh, here's the deaf chick from A Quiet Place and nothing else. I hope that people hire her for more things, and that she becomes a bit, one of the, probably the best known deaf actress. Because I mean, every so often you get somebody who's the most well known of a certain, disability in Hollywood, and I hope this, that she becomes that, and that it allows for more deaf actors in roles. One can only hope. I'm not expecting anything from Hollywood, though. But yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm very curious to see if they do end up, because I know with the money they want to, but I'm curious how they will follow this up with a Quiet Place Part 3. But even if they don't, this duology is fantastic and highly recommended. I mentioned Cruella before, and the next movie we're going to be talking about is that. We're going to be talking about Cruella. And the thing about Cruella is it's pretty stupid, but it was a lot of fun. I will admit, the last time Disney did this with Maleficent, I listed that as one of my least favorite movies of that year, 2014, just because I felt like it was this betrayal to the character, and I've yet to go back and revisit it. I'd probably be kinder to it on a revisit. I think it was just at that time I was so deep into my cynical phase of being a reviewer, of seeing it as just a glorified Wicked wannabe, just Disney trying to cash in on the success of Wicked. Because right before then they had cast Idina Menzel, who was mainly famous from Wicked, as a in one of their movies, to sing a song that sounds pretty similar in terms of like tone and theming to Defying Gravity. In fact, Elsa as a character has a very interesting corollary to it's like an interesting correlation to Elphaba from Wicked. But yeah, I was so deep into that cynical mindset of like Disney's just trying to ride coattails. They're not being interesting or unique or anything, and So I have to revisit Maleficent. But as for this, it's pretty cheesy. It's a very cheesy Batman style supervillain origin story. And it tries really. The writing in this movie is the weakest part because it tries so hard to connect all of the dots that we know from, and that's kind of every prequel's problem, is that they feel like they have to connect every single dot from the first movie or first story in order to explain how this happened. Like, apparently there's a throwaway line about how the Millennium Falcon is referred to as a she by R2D2 or something like that. I don't know. And then that's why it's revealed that the Millennium Falcon's AI system was the robot from Solo. Uh, I think it was the sort the the one that Hans the that I can Lando is into. That droid is apparently the navigation system for the Millennium Falcon later on, because everything has to be explained, and I think that's kind of the problem here. Especially with the whole mimetic death of Ella's mother. That whole sequence, it feels straight out of a cheesy supervillain origin story. It really screams like, wow, we just really had to do something stupid in order to tie into the fact that she can't. I mean, that's the thing, is that Dalmatians are inherently kind of aggressive. So, I mean, it's like her not liking Dalmatians could just stem from the fact that the Dalmatians she ran into were kind of aggressive. The Dalmatians didn't have to kill her mom, which is the meme now. And it really is just such a odd take on it, especially when you consider that the way they handle her childhood, they're either implying that Cruella is bipolar, has bipolar disorder, or has a split personality, in that there's Ella and there's Cruella, which is the nickname given to her by one of her classmates, in which she becomes, an unstoppable rage monster. She just goes full barbarian rage on everybody. And they don't say one way or the other, but there's the implication that she's either has bipolar disorder or she has a split personality, and it's just kind of left hanging there and it's never addressed again. But yeah, that said, with the writing being the weakest part, the rest of the movie is just a blast. Emma Stone and Emma Thompson, especially when they go head to head, are fantastic. The way they're able to butt heads and sort of go tete a tete in terms of their sassiness, their sort of passive aggression is really fun. And Emma Thompson, her character is basically the actual Cruella. Like, that's the template for Cruella from the story of 101 Dalmatians that we never really get to see Emma Stone turn into by the end. Even by the end, she's not really the Cruella we know from the books or even from the movies. She's still this new version of Cruella. Kind of like how Maleficent didn't become the Maleficent from the original Sleeping Beauty movie, she became this new version of Maleficent. And so yeah, that's kind of something we just have to sit there and deal with. But yeah, but what really makes Cruella stand out is the soundtrack is the moving it up from the 60s to the 70s allowed for a lot more metal and punk and this harsher rock sound to the soundtrack that really made this enjoyable. The soundtrack for this is killer. Like, I could listen to every song used in this movie on a loop. It's fantastic. And then the costume design is award worthy. Like, the fashion itself is solid, and then the way that they design Cruella's from the burning dress that's straight out of Hunger Games, But then you follow that up with things like the trash gown that's made from old dresses that are stitched together to all the various dresses that Cruella makes in this movie. They're all fantastic. Like the fashion design aspect of this is incredible, and I wish that was what people were talking about, because that's really that's, if nothing else, that's a reason to see this movie. It's to just watch all of the beautiful design aspects that went into it. And yeah, I had more fun with this than Maleficent, but that's not saying a whole lot. I haven't revisited Maleficent since it first came out, but yeah, and then of course there's the whole this is the Disney's seventh or eighth first openly gay character, and all he is just a sassy goth Ziggy Stardust. Like that's it. The way he's basically got a black star, and then he's basically goth Ziggy Stardust. Only he's got sass, and he has no mention of being gay or being in a relationship with another man or be any sort of it's just a gay stereotype, and they're saying he's openly gay, even though that never comes up and it's never a part of, it never plays any part to the movie. It's just he's a sassy, goth Ziggy Stardust who runs a dress store. And Disney can't keep saying this is their first openly gay character when they aren't willing to commit and actually make it a, noteworthy or important character. They do more gay stuff on the Disney Channel than they do in the movies. By the way, I need to catch up on the Owl House. I hear nothing but good things. So yeah, they're also talking about a sequel already. I didn't realize it made that much money. In fact, how much money did Cruella make? This is the one thing I don't like about Box Office Mojo, is that since Amazon bought them out and they're part of IMDb now, so much of the stuff that was there already is now hidden behind a paywall. But yeah, Cruella has made $95 million domestically and over $150 million worldwide. So yeah, I can see why they would be talking about a sequel. It's definitely already made back its budget. I can't imagine it cost more than $150 million to make. So what they plan to do with the sequel? I don't know. Like the Maleficent sequel wasn't very good either, because they had nothing to do with the character. There was nowhere to go with the character anymore. Even though they used the whole Mistress of All Evil in the subtitle, she never really becomes evil. She never becomes the Maleficent from the original movie. And I doubt that they'll go back and basically turn Cruella into a new 101 Dalmatians reboot, because I doubt that they'll make this Cruella actually kill puppies, because they used puppies throughout the whole movie. So why would she all of a sudden go around and then kill puppies? I don't know. But yeah, Cruella was fine. Cruella was a fun little jaunt, but once the ride's over, you'll probably forget about it. Next up is probably a lot of people's favorite movie of the year, and that is In the Heights. In the Heights is an interesting one. I had heard of the play before because people talked about it when Hamilton first started becoming popular. People were saying, "Oh, you should check out In the Heights. In the Heights is good too." And seeing it as a film, I really enjoyed it. The soundtrack for this I actually enjoy more than Hamilton, and yeah, because you've got this fusion of Latin music, reggaeton, that Caribbean Latin music, as well as hip hop and then traditional Broadway sort of musical stylings. That all is fused together into this whole new sound that at least I have never heard before, and I think it works fantastic. I will say probably the weakest part of the movie for me was the framing device. I don't know if that's from the stage show or if it's something that they included in the movie in order to give it a framing device, but the whole framing device of Usnavi narrating this to these kids is honestly kind of weak. Like, Usnavi's not the problem. His actor is fine. But the kids, oh boy, did those kids drag the movie down. Like those kids had no presence. They had no real way of it felt like they literally grabbed a bunch of kids off the street and said, "Here, listen to this man tell you a story." And they sounded like you know just random kids who have no idea that they're being used in a film. Even the daughter that it's even the spoiler alert, one of them is his daughter. uh Even she is just awful. Yeah, and it's not the kid's fault. It's not the kid's fault. And I don't know if it's just the bad casting. John M. Chu is not good with kids. Whatever happened, those kids just sucked all of the energy out of the movie as soon as it cut back to them. But when it's not on them, when it's actually the story of Uznavi and that whole circle of people in Washington Heights, that is the good part of the movie for me. That is all excellent for the most part. Although I will say the story has a tendency to go in the more melodramatic side. It tends to be. I mean, a lot of it is. I mean, Uznavi, besides wanting to go back to the Dominican, his major plot point is that this hot chick he's really into won't admit won't admit that she likes him, and there's the whole bit with Benny and oh god, what's her name? I forget her name. The girl coming from Stanford. Uh, their whole thing is kind of melodramatic. Like I said, the stories feel a bit like a soap opera or telenovela at points. Never that obviously over the top, but the drama is not so much heavy drama. It's very light drama, and a lot of it just comes from miscommunication and just not talking about stuff. And yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just something I realized after the fact. But the biggest thing I liked was just how much Latinx like the fact that there's an entire song dedicated to all of the various cultures from the Caribbean, specifically like Puerto Rico, Cuba, the Dominican Republic. They include Mexico in there, but I mean, like, just having this sort of positive affirmational representation. There's a whole Puerto Rican, I believe Puerto Rican, because I saw flan and I saw some Puerto Rican dishes that they were cooking, and I know that family in particular is Puerto Rican. But yeah, the whole dinner scene is great. Like, everything about the cultural representation has this authenticity to it and this love behind it that I'm happy to see out there on the big screen, and having this mainstream big budget representation that you don't always get to see. I will admit that even when I finished watching it, felt like there was a lack of darker skin sort of Afro Latin representation, and you know people have commented on it, and I think it's I think that is something that should have been thought about. But I think that's all stems from the fact that um, it's hard enough to get any positive Hispanic representation. And this isn't my lane. I'll admit, this isn't my lane to travel, so I'll get out of it real quick. But that that critique isn't without merit. There's definitely an issue there, but it's for that community to discuss. And I'm just pointing out that I noticed it myself, and so it's definitely something to discuss about the movie. But as for the actual movie, but it doesn't really affect the movie in and of itself. It's just something that's ties into the representation and the discussion surrounding it. The movie itself is fantastic, just beautiful, gorgeous use of the film, and and given that John M. Chu started with the Step Up movies, he makes use of the dance numbers beautifully, and he really does a good job with specifically 96,000 in the pool. The way he goes underwater at one point, and that whole sequence is fun. Uh, the one of the final numbers, the one where Benny and I can't remember her name. Uh, it's gonna bug me. What is her name? Nina. Yeah, the way that Benny and Nina danced on the side of a building. I don't know if that's from the stage show, but it's definitely one of the most iconic sequences in the movie. Is them dancing on the side of their apartment building, and it's really well executed. I think John M. Chu is a perfect. He does a fantastic job. I would like to see him direct more musical adaptations, especially if they're like big dance number centric musicals. Like like holy cow! Imagine him doing like one of the old Rodgers and Hammerstein's musicals where they have those big dance numbers. It would look fantastic. But yeah, apparently they also go a lot. Apparently they also softened this movie for theaters. Like in term, like the movie is doesn't tackle a lot of the issues that were there in the play, in the musical, the stage musical, and I feel like that's a missed opportunity. It feels like they had to declaw a lot of the more biting critiques and biting storylines, stuff that would make people more uncomfortable, and it feels like they declawed it in order to make it more uh, mainstream friendly, and I feel like that's a missed opportunity. I feel like I feel like that was just a bad concession to make. I feel like they didn't need to pull back their punches like that. But I'd have to see the stage musical for myself. But as for this, oh, not my favorite of the year, but I had a lot of fun with it. It's such a gorgeously shot musical. It's the soundtrack is killer. The whole Abuelo song about her life is just heartbreaking and beautiful to listen to. So yeah, definitely check out In the Heights if you haven't. I'm not sure how many people seeing this are familiar or have any opinions on this next one, but I was not a fan. And of course you were the one. Of course you were going to be the one to mess up the whole setup. Yeah, Peter Rabbit. Peter Rabbit 2 finally came out, and nope, no sir, I didn't like it. I will say I don't have this love of the source books, the Beatrix Potter books themselves. I enjoyed them as a kid, but I never really clung to the stories in any way. They were just always kind of there in the back of my mind. But the first Peter Rabbit movie I despised with a burning passion. Absolutely hated it. In fact, let me check my old end of the year list because I think I was reviewing movies by the time that came out for the podcast. Let me see. Uh, what year was the first Peter Rabbit? 2018? Shoot. Let me see. Okay, it didn't make. I did a top 7 instead of a top 10 that year, so it didn't make the full list. But yeah, Peter Rabbit was definitely one of my least favorite movies to come out in 2018. And as soon as they announced the sequel, I was immediately dreading it. It got delayed because of the pandemic, and I managed to forget about it until I realized, oh wait, it's finally coming out. And so I went And I sat down to watch it, and my soul just entirely left my body. It's just like there's no point going on. It's just like accept it, just like accepting the inevitable. Like, yep, this isn't gonna be good, and sure wasn't. So the premise this time around is Peter's story. The events of the first movie have been written into a book. I think they said that at the end of the last movie that Rose Byrne's character was was writing a book about the whole animals situation and specifically Peter. And so that book is now out, self-published by B and McGregor. I forget his name, Domhnall Gleeson's character, and they're getting married, and they get married at the beginning of the movie, and after they, as things go on, they Domhnall Gleeson wants a family, is wanting actual kids, and B gets sucked into the possibility of her book becoming a major publishing success, like a bestseller, backed by a major publisher, led by David Oyelowo. Oyelowo. But that whole sequence, everything to do with the publisher and David Oyelowo in particular, is just there because the writers felt like it was important to know, for us to know, that they know that we know that this franchise is a soulless corporate cash grab without any real heart and is just dancing on the grave of Beatrix Potter, and that they don't care. They genuinely don't care. It's a joke to them, and they just wanted us to know that. So that's good. That's good. That feels good. But yeah, in the meantime, Peter realizes he's being seen as a bad seed, a troublemaker, and when he feels like that, he goes off and runs into another talking rabbit in a coat who claims to be old friends with his dad. And Peter then leans into this bad seed type personality in order to help this rabbit steal food from people around Gloucester, I think, is where most of the events take place. And this all culminates to the Beatrix Potter characters helping in this massive heist of dried fruit. Meanwhile, Domhnall Gleeson and B are at odds because they aren't paying attention. They don't communicate with each other at all until the very end of the movie, because that's how we have conflicts. Nobody actually talks to each other in ways that people actually would talk to each other. But then it all ends in a sequence that was earlier in the film described in total and mockingly. Like, mockingly said, hey, this would be really stupid if we did this, and then they did it. And pointing out the fact that you're a hackneyed, soulless, give no shits corporate and production doesn't give you brownie points for me. It just means that, like, you have run out of fucks to given, and that you're just you just don't care anymore. Suffice to say that, yeah, I think none of that would be a big deal to me if they utilize the Potter characters in any meaningful way. But Peter is I think it's weird that they treat Peter like he's a teenager, and he sounds like James Corden, who is well into his 40s, and he doesn't sound like a teenager at all. Like, the other animals are all of indeterminate ages anyway, but Peter himself has always sounded like an adult man. Never sounded like a teenager. And James Corden, I've yet to see be funny. Genuinely have yet. Maybe he's funny on his own show, but he himself I've yet to see be funny or hear be funny in any of his voice roles. Just he is basically the British Jimmy Fallon. He just managed to be in the right spot for people to think he's funny enough to host a talk show. Uh, but yeah, the new characters, the ones that they introduced as part of this Barnabas Rabbit's crew. Barnabas being the one that Peter runs into. His whole crew completely forgettable, no impact on the plot, and yeah, I genuinely have no idea how this world of semi-talking animals is supposed to work. Some animals talk, but most animals don't. Who gets to decide which animals talk? Do the humans actually hear the animals talk, or do they not? I don't know. They don't know. They don't care, and nothing is ever explained. And yeah, this is one of the worst movies of the year for if I did that kind of thing. But in terms of my way of going about things, I tend to, instead of using best and worst, because that seems that seems more objective. Like, technically speaking, this would be the best. X would be the best, and X would be the worst movie of the year in terms of the entire filmmaking process: writing, directing, acting, special effects, camera work, all of that stuff. And this is definitely, full 1-star grade movie, just like the first one, and 1 star out of 5, I should say. But it's not like my least favorite movie, because those kinds of movies are for things like music, Sia's Music, that came out this year, which is a just absolutely horrific attempt to try and portray autism on the screen. And for things like No Safe Spaces, which is genuinely one of the worst piece of propaganda espousing itself as a documentary that I've ever seen in my life. But Peter Rabbit 2, not my least favorite of the year. I prefer I've added I started doing this in, I think, 2016, 2017, fairly recently, but I took the idea from Zero Punctuation and Yahtzee. He would include who I think before took the idea from one James Stephanie Sterling's son, for when they used to review games, the idea of a blandest list, instead of the media that that wasn't bad, wasn't good, it just didn't warrant any even existing. And I feel like Peter Rabbit 2 tops that list wholeheartedly, because there's nothing really redeemable in this entire movie, at least from my perspective, that makes it worth seeing, or was worth making, because this definitely took a lot of effort to make, and it made back its money, no problem. But I saw no redeeming qualities in this movie, and I'm just tired. That like I said, my soul left my body, and I accepted that I must sit through Peter Rabbit 2, and I gained nothing from it, not even hatred. And then it was done, and I could move on with the rest of my life until Peter Rabbit 3 comes and takes more time. We're going to end things off with the last movie I've seen, and we're going to have to fix the poster again. The one problem I probably shouldn't have done. I may have to finagle a workaround for this. That way, I can. Can I put text? Yeah, I can put text in Streamlabs. I may do that next time. Remake this image and then put the text in Streamlabs so I can put the poster behind the text. Anyway, the last movie I saw was Luca. And Luca is really good. Luca is the latest Pixar movie. It was given direct to Disney Plus for some reason. I guess Disney didn't want to immediately jump out and put this back out in theaters. Although I do wish that Disney would do a theatrical run for Soul and Luca at some point. just to give those movies their fair shake. But yeah, Luca hears the story of a little merboy, fish boy, sea monster, as they're called in the movie, off the coast of Italy. Don't know which part of Italy specifically, but I think they say in the movie, but I don't remember what if that. I don't know if that's a real place or not. Okay, Italian Riviera. So we're talking northern Italy, but Luca, is, like so many young boys with very strict parentage, he has these thoughts of going to the surface and seeing what it's like on land, because so much junk will fall down into where he is, where he's basically this fish shepherd, uh, and so he'll get these glimpses of the surface world and wonder. It's basically kind of like a lighter version of Little Mermaid, where it's not fully like King Triton angry and she has a whole hoarder's worth collection of surface junk, but he does have this fascination with the surface world, and he then meets a young boy named Alberto, who he thinks is human but is revealed to be a sea monster as well, who's been living on this island and basically alone. And Alberto befriends him, becomes his first real friend, and they have all this fun on the island. And then he learns that Alberto introduces him the idea of Vespas, Vespa scooters, and Luca immediately becomes obsessed, and he wants his own Vespa, like to ride with Alberto. And by that point, Luca's parents, played by Maya Rudolph and Jim Gaffigan, catch wind that Luca has been going to the surface, and they say if they catch him doing this again, they're going to send him off with his uncle, played in a brief cameo by Sacha Baron Cohen, who is this angler fish man who with translucent skin, who lives in the deep ocean. And they're basically saying, hey, Luca, we're going to send you to the literal bottom of the ocean if you don't get your act right. And so Luca, realizing that his parents are going to send him away from Alberto, runs away to Alberto, and the two of them go to this nearby town where they can hopefully see if they can buy themselves find a way to get a Vespa. And they learned that there's this triathlon sort of thing that they hold every year, where there's prize money, and they figure we can use that prize money to buy a Vespa. It's a beat down, trashy old Vespa that could barely run anyway, but it's it's their Vespa. And in coming to land, they meet this girl named Julia. Is it Julieta or Julia? I heard Julia. Julia, Giulia, Julia. And as well, they also meet Massimo Marcovaldo, who is... Oh, no, that's the dad. Who's the... Ercole. That's it. Ercole Visconti, who looks like a 50-year-old, wannabe playboy Italian guy, but he's short, and he's supposed to be like 15. He's got like all these wrinkles. He looks so old for 15. It's like, I've never met a 15. You're Steve Buscemi. You're Italian Steve Buscemi. Don't tell me you're 15. But so Alberto has this sort of rivalry with Ercole, because because Ercole is the bully around town, and he wants to finally stand up to him. And Julia has the boys stay at her place, and they start off as a team, but soon Luca finds out there's so much more to the world around him, and he actually wants to go to school and learn things with Julia, and he becomes obsessed with space. And so his whole arc kind of changes over the course of the movie. At first, he wants to go to the surface. And then when he goes to the surface, he wants a Vespa. and then when he finds out how to get a Vespa, he now wants to go to school. And I guess it is kind of in line with some of those kids who are like, "Oh, I want this thing. Okay, now I want this thing. Okay, no. Now I want this thing." And it definitely feels kind of all over the place, but yeah, it all and people have commented on this too, but Alberto and Luca's friendship does have this weird foundation that they could use for a gay relationship, but they never really do it. It's like the foundation is there for it, but it never gets romantic. And I feel like that could have been a cool opportunity, but it's never really, nothing really goes anywhere with it. In fact, Alberto kind of loses a lot of character momentum by the time Julia enters the picture. And he's supposed to have this bond formed with Julia's father, who's a fisherman, and has this seething hatred of sea monsters. But that's all kind of rushed. Like, especially the big resolution by the end, everything about it is just no conflict anymore. We're done. And I feel like that's kind of I feel like they were setting up for things and then it never really paid off. It just fizzled out. So it had, but at the same point, like, it's still charming and fun, and Luca and Alberto are a whole, just have this great chemistry, and then the whole the whole throwing in of Julia into the mix that throws their whole friendship out of balance, and everything about it is really sweet and charming. It's beautiful to look at. It's absolutely gorgeous per Pixar's usual, and I think it's a fun little jaunt to Italy. If you can't go to Italy, have some fun with Luca. It's like a mini trip to Italy, and I believe this is an Italian filmmaker's first real. He worked in the art department for a lot of Pixar stuff. Apparently, he also worked on robots. He's a background layout designer for The Secret of Anastasia and PB&J Otter. So he's been in the animation industry for a while, and through Pixar, he was able to get his first feature film, and it's basically a tribute to Italy. And it's a fun little slice of life story. It's not amazing or anything. It's not one of the best things Pixar's ever done, but it's not trying to be either. It's this nice, sweet trip to Italy with these two boys having fun, maybe for having the foundations of a relationship, and then it never goes anywhere. But hey, it was still fun. Why is the chat box not showing up? That's weird. But yeah, it really is just a lovely, gorgeous movie. One of the better parts, one of the shining moments of this year, to be certain. And I think that'll be it. I'm starting to feel tickles in my throat, so I think that means I've been talking too much. But I hope you liked Deer and Projector Lights. I will be posting the full stream as a single video, and then cutting out the individual reviews as well, and that'll all go to YouTube. But I'm hoping to make this a weekly thing, and we'll see about maybe talking about other movies, maybe going back, just seeing what all is out there. I've been too lazy. I've been watching a bunch of stuff on YouTube, and I need to catch up on. There's a whole bunch of Netflix I need to catch up on too. Things like Wish Dragon, and there's that one where they were all in space. Stowaway, and so I mean, there's a whole bunch I need to catch up on. But hope we're gonna see if we can make this a thing, and we're gonna see if film reviewing VTubers will take off or not. So yeah, we're gonna head back over to the main scene, and we're gonna say our goodbyes for right now. I'm probably gonna get back to visual novels again either tomorrow or Thursday, and then I have something planned for Friday. I'm trying to get a normal schedule up and running so that I can be consistent, but we'll see. So hope you enjoyed this time. Dear Projector Lights, and we're gonna come back again, and I'm gonna try and see. I missed what's it called? Uh, Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. For its initial release, that came out this weekend. I missed it. I'm gonna see, let me see what's coming up next. Oh, of course, Fast 9. So I'm gonna have to talk about that. And apparently, Ice Road is coming to theaters. That must be limited because I think that's a Netflix movie. And then Meyer Lansky, Murder Inc. Okay. Oh, I've seen this one. I've seen trailers for this one. It looks interesting. Sam Worthington and Harvey Keitel. Harvey Keitel plays the old Meyer Lansky, so that should be interesting. Who's Aiton Rockaway, who directed The Abandoned. That was his feature before this. The Abandoned, confined to an intense claustrophobic thriller. What language is this? Not rated. The Confines. I think it was. What language was this? Horror mystery thriller. English. No, it's filmed in New York. So it's just an independent film from New York. Not very well regarded. But we'll see. So yeah, we'll see what all's coming out in theaters. I want to catch up on some stuff. And then I definitely need to catch up on Netflix. So until next time, I'll see you folks later. Bye.